Hi guys. So today I also wanted to talk about machismo culture here in Mexico, which is really really bad. Um I've been living in Mexico since the pandemic, and so funny enough is I can't see a lot of the things that local women have to go through here because I'm on the tourist end pretty much. I'm a foreigner living in a different country. I'm not going to see all the corruption. And so it wasn't until I was living in a small town that wasn't very tourist influenced where I saw the machismo really heavy. And I even posted this on threads, like my experience. And the culture, don't get me wrong, the culture is so beautiful. So this is not by any means me talking shit about Mexico, but Mexico is known to be one of the highest femicide rates for women. And even the local women, like I've had local friends before, they tell me what it is. They tell me what they're scared of. They tell me that they can't just get up and leave. Um, so the machismo that I witnessed when I was living in my own place in this foreign town that wasn't really affected by tourism, I would have to like go to work in a town nearby to get to the tourist money. But basically, all the like where I was living, a lot of Mexican families live close to each other and everything. And something that I noticed is that they let a lot these families in particular, they let a lot of the boys just do what they want. Like the boy kids and teens, they would just be so outrageous and so terrible. And this is not just machismo culture in Mexico. Obviously, this is like socialization so many places, even America, even everywhere. Um, but they let the kids act crazy. One time, I told the story when I came home, and this boy kid, was beating up a girl who in her school uniform, fresh out of school, and I had to stand there until he stopped, and that was shocking because the boy looked so innocent. Like a few days ago, and I was like, he would never hurt a fly type stuff. And so that was my first instant of like, oh, machismo is like really really bad. And just seeing how like one family that I was neighbors to, they was just so hellish, and the dad was just teaching the small ways of just being disrespectful to women. And to me in particular as a foreigner, because it's no secret that a lot of people don't like tourists here, and I don't blame them, but it's still not okay in my opinion. um but yeah, it was like just like teachings of how to be disrespectful and discriminatory and everything like that. And there are a lot of people who say things like racism doesn't exist in Mexico, which is BS. Mexico in itself has been colonized to the gods. And so one of my neighbors was pretty chill for the most part. The other neighbors, you could tell they were like teaching the kids how to be disrespectful, teaching them like discrimination, all these things. And me being like a foreigner American, like I don't just take disrespect, I'm gonna stand up for myself. And so what I noticed in the machismo culture, obviously machismo has hierarchies, like in the patriarchy was like the dad has the end all be all say. If his mood isn't good, nobody's mood is good. Like if the dad hungry or feeling shitty, everybody's mood is shitty. And it was basically a situation where I could see that a lot of these people were just having family units because it was something that they were just told to do. And that's the vibe that I got from a lot of the families there. And it was this protection of protecting the abusers. um it was so bad that anytime I stood up for myself, the teenage girls who were just like watching me do that, they seemed mad at me that I was not falling in line, because that like threatened their whole hierarchy or understanding of how the world works. You just don't question your dad or men. And I'm like, I'm not bowing to anybody's son. I'm not bowing to any man. And every time that I would push back, the dad will almost become more of an outrageous bully of just like trying to surveillance my own property that I'm paying for, telling me what to do. And it got to the point where it was that story I told on Instagram where I was just putting tarot cards in the window, And he got so freaked out, and he was telling the landlord to tell me to take it down. I'm like, this is not his space. And so it was just like this push and pull power dynamic to where I was just like, I don't even want to be here. Like, and the landlord was like, oh, just record everything that happens. I'm like, um, these parents know what type of kids they're raising. They're raising them to be like really like bullies and to be disrespectful and to run rampant and all these things. And yeah, it was just terrible. And it's like you could tell that the women were like pretty damn subservient. And like I even had a friend who was like having troubles with an ex-boyfriend, and she went to a neighbor for help, and the women were like, well, we can't get involved. That's similar to like even in the black community, you know, you just mind your business. But so much subservience. It was like any ounce of, the more that I was around, it was almost like it was a bad example of being independent as a woman. I no longer live with a man because I broke up with this abuser. And so it was like everything that I stood for, they wanted to suppress, or they needed me to go, which they couldn't really tell me in a mature way. But I was like, I don't even want to deal with this anymore. So, but yeah, I would have never known how bad the machismo is. And to me, I just heard stuff of it, but like, and it wasn't until I was like in the position that I understood truthfully, like, this is how women get silenced. Because every time I would push back, they would double down and like make me feel crazy, and I would tell the landlord what people were doing to like intimidate me and throwing rocks at my house and stuff. And um she would side with the abusers, and like that's the tribal thinking, even if it's like the wrong thing to do. And so yeah, until I experienced it firsthand, it was just like it was terrible. And what else? Yeah, the thing about it though is like, this is okay. This is how I think women are silenced, because they would double down every time I stood up. Me having independence and self expression was like a no no. It was like, bro, like no one stands out, and it was like no one's supposed to stand out. Um, you have the back of, you know, the hierarchy of men and boys, even if they're doing wrong. Oh yeah, and then there was a time where a boy got mad at his friend for helping me carry a heavy ass water to my porch. It was just a mess. And I think femicide rates are high here because women are silenced. The men have this boys can be boys mentality where they can do whatever they want. If I'm being real, it's like no consequence. And also the women kind of like, I think the women have to survive, and they have to go with like those structures and hierarchy. I think there's violence that can be intacted, because me standing up for myself, it was like at some point it was like threat of authority in some way, shape, or form, which I think patriarchy uses, like for example police and all these things, to keep people in check as well. And so it was all this machismo at play just to keep me in check, because it was such a threat just to have that expression and that example and to be myself. And so I think femicide happens really bad here because they're silencing the woman, and there's no consequence to what the men can do. And obviously there's probably some element of hatred towards women that get thrown in there in general, which I don't even know where that comes from. I'm still trying to fathom that in the world in general. So yeah, I'm curious to hear you guys input. um I know every now and then people will talk about racism in Mexico or in the culture. People talking about it more openly, which is good. I don't know. I know obviously it helps to speak Spanish. I don't know if I deal with a lot of colorism. I deal with a lot of colorism still with tourism. If people bring their limiting beliefs here, but yeah, I can see why femicide is really high and women are silenced. But there's a hell of a lot of badass feminists here as well. But So one of my friends just commented on my threads, in the small town there's probably like way worse. So it makes sense. But yeah, that's my experience with machismo and fucking man.